in the early 2000s. That was a good 10-year run. And I think, COVID obviously has been a major retreat on student achievement for a lot of reasons. And we're still recovering from that. And frankly, we need to really up our urgency around the needs of our students. And that, I think, is the number one question as lawmakers and folks in the administration consider, what is it that should be the responsibility? What is our, imperative as a nation around serving students better than we do today?
And there's the argument that those that make those decisions should be at the local level. So leaving education solely to the state, but maybe with a lot more funding, do you think that could work? How do you see the Trump administration's plans possibly affecting teachers here?
So the federal government is really just a minority investor in K-12 education currently. About 9 cents on the dollar comes from the federal government, and it is meted out in ways that target largely poor and disadvantaged populations. Most of the authority, and rightly so, because most of the money comes from state and local government, largely states. And so issues around curriculum and school choice and parent control, the curriculum, the books in the library, that is all in the purview of states and localities and not the federal government. In fact, there are express prohibitions for the feds controlling curriculum.
And 9 cents on the dollar, when you're talking about those 9 cents, where does the bulk of those federal funds, where do those go?
They go to Title I, to IDEA, to programs that are largely targeted at disadvantaged students around the thesis, and this gets back to the founding and the aftermath of the Great Society, LBJ, when those programs were initially created as part of HEW and then into the Carter administration, that we as a nation had an interest in leveling the playing field and providing opportunity for all of our students, no matter where they lived.
Are you optimistic about what you're seeing, or do you think that there could be problems on the horizon here?
Well, this notion of abolishing the Department of Education has been kind of standard Republican fare for a very long time, since Ronald Reagan and so, as you know, the Department of Education stands to this day. So I do think it's right for us to have a conversation about what is the rightful federal role, what's the right level of resourcing, and on things that are critical to this day, like the capacity of the American workforce and the programs that are frankly sprinkled throughout the federal government, at the Department of Labor, at the Department of Education. Perhaps we can manage those better. Maybe they should all be at the Department of Commerce around a thesis about improving our economy and growth in the economy. But, whether those programs exist at all is the first question. And secondly, that's where you save the money, is to eliminate things. And then if you are going to have them, what's the best and most appropriate way to house them? The other thing I would say, and it's clearly something that President Bush and I worked a lot on, is if we're going to spend money, we have to know what we're getting for it. And we have to have accountability, both in higher education and in K-12, to know, are we seeing results? And at the moment, it's not a pretty picture.
Do you think that the results that we may see and the metrics for those results, which are based on the testing that we use today, those will also change with this shakeup of the Department of Education?
Not necessarily. We have what's called our National Education Report Card. That has been on the books for a very long time. One of the clips that you showed prior to my joining this section is about the need to shine a light and understand where we are. We can't fix problems that we don't fully understand. And so I think there is a rightful role for data and evidence and elevating, what works and what isn't working. And so I think that's an important role, and one that, yes, we need to calibrate. Every single state has their own unique test that is derived by the state, and as it should be. They're paying the bills. They ought to describe what do they want their kids to know, and how do they know that those kids are learning that body of knowledge.
Margaret Spelling's quite the lesson today. Thank you so much.